Makes you want to follow.
Yes.
Mark, you said, calendar picks.
It's raining still.
It is. I think I hit it just right before I came in. For a while there, I thought I'm going to be late to the meeting.
I text Sarah, I was like, I am going to be squeaking by here.
We're in the middle of it, so we got like multiple systems going. That is your new bills list.
This is the new way it looks. And the updated.
Stacy's trying
Is
to
that a
find the
trial,
different-
just a trial brace? I like it, but
Oh, that's what we're implementing.
It's very detailed.
Yeah, we're in the middle of it, so like, we got part of it up and running, but part of it's not.
yeah.
You're like doing
I like it, I like it.
We have some seats up here too. Nobody wants to front row, it's like short
This is a big one.
What's that?
This is a big one.
Yes. Yes.
Oh boy, here we go, huh?
Oh, we're all, yep, yep.
Alright, it's 5:30, we'll call the meeting to order, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. We have open forum right now, but with a large crowd. And if you're here for a specific reason, when we get to that part, you'll be able to speak. So if you're here for a public hearing of some kind, if you can just wait till then, and we'll give you a chance. If there's anyone else who wants to speak for something other than that, what they're here, that's on the agenda, please come forward now. Very good. Wastewater Regionalization Project, Jared.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Enclosed in your packet this evening is pay estimate number 18 for the regionalization project. The pay estimate is in the amount of $113,727.82. Assuming approval, this represents 89% of the entire project completion. So we did have our construction meeting today. That was number 33 for the project. Contractor indicated that we're anticipating the equipment to be delivered in about 2 weeks so that they can wrap up some of the lift station things and complete other restoration items. And they are working on the gravity sewer tie-ins today. They anticipated finishing tomorrow. That was before the rain, so we'll see. Still should get it done yet this week. So with that, we're recommending approval of pay estimate number 18 to Geislinger and Sons in the amount of $113,727.82. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions council might have.
Anyone have any questions?
Everything still looks good?
Absolutely.
Completion date?
We're anticipating if that equipment arrives in a couple of weeks, we're anticipating that we're going to do a startup. It's looking like middle of July, somewhere in there.
Anyone else have any questions? Can I get a motion to approve pay application 18?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
Thanks, council.
Thanks, Jared.
Is this separate, this water ordinance?
Yes.
Oh,
Part
that
of
was
the-
with him, sorry.
Nope, I'll take care of that part. If you're ready. Okay, so what we have presented tonight is, an ordinance amendment. This updates the wastewater treatment system use code. The reason we need to update this is because we are required to comply with at minimum St. Cloud's regulations. So either at St. Cloud's regulations or stricter. So if you read this dozens and dozens of pages of very interesting reading, you'll see a lot of technical things in there. We worked closely with St. Cloud on this ordinance language. It's very similar across all of the partner cities. We need to adopt it before St. Cloud will accept any flow from us. So I'm requesting the council adopt this code. It will then mirror what the other 7 partner cities are doing and allow us to send wastewater, which we're hoping to start to do in the next month or so. So, any questions on that? It's been reviewed by Mark and I. The city attorney spent quite a bit of time. We have looked at it. It is not the most exciting reading, but it is necessary.
They can make revisions at any time?
Correct. They make revisions and then they pass it along to all of the partner cities, and we all have to update the code as needed. And that's based on the permits that they have with the MPCA.
What kind of time frame would they give us? 30 days, a year?
Oh, they give us months.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually when they anticipate something is coming, We're having a meeting about it. They're also keeping us up to date with things that are coming from the MPCA that they anticipate could be coming. Yeah, we usually get a good timeline on that.
Any more discussion on this? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve ordinance 479.
I move that we approve 479.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? If not, all four say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Discuss and approve enforcement response plan.
Okay, this is the second part of a requirement that needs to be put in place for us to send wastewater to St. Cloud. This is a pre-treatment program. We have been through all of our entities that could possibly be affected by this. Right now, we don't have anybody that qualifies, but we must have a pre-treatment and enforcement plan in place should a business come in or should a need arise for that. So this is exactly the same thing that all of the cities have to do. So I'll just request you move approval of this so that we comply with St. Cloud's requirements of connection.
Does that need to be a motion or just,
A motion.
can I get a motion to approve the enforcement response plan?
So
I'll
moved.
make the motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all four say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
Aye.
Public hearing liquor violations of Mr. Jim's and Stone Creek. Is there anyone here to speak on this?
Mr. Mayor, you should, if there's a public hearing, you need to close the regular council meeting and open the public hearing.
Sorry. At 5:37, we'll close the regular meeting and conduct a public hearing on item 7. Is there anyone here to speak for or against these liquor violations of Mr. Jim's and Stone Creek? Is there anyone here to speak for or against these violations? Is there anyone here to speak for or against these violations? Seeing and hearing none.
Real quick, what's the ramifications of no one speaking on behalf of these two entities?
I don't know if you have
I
any
mean, do they
comment on
lose
that
their
yet.
license?
This is not related to, well, there's two issues. The entities failed to meet the financial responsibilities of
Mhm.
their existing license, and then they also failed to file an application within 45 days as required by ordinance. Maybe you want to comment additionally?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, an entity doesn't need to speak at the public hearing for the council to consider any consequences of any violations. So after the public hearing is closed, the council can then have a discussion on what consequences, if any, are appropriate for the entities.
Has all the necessary criteria been met yet, Sarah?
Okay, so,
So should I close the public hearing part now?
You can close the public hearing part.
Okay, so at this time, I'll close the public hearing part and go back to the regular meeting at 5:38. Gary?
Okay. Any of the criteria that they failed to produce, whatever, has that been corrected? Are we at,
so for the existing license, for the financial responsibility, they did correct that. That was an insurance lapse, so
Correct.
that was corrected. The second portion, which is the 45-day application, they did submit the application, they just didn't submit it timely.
okay.
So is timely being a day or to the very limit? I don't know how else to say that.
They didn't submit it until we personally served them
Okay,
10 days later and also mailed them a letter, so.
okay. So now it's up to us to decide if we wanna,
I'm just trying to go off memory here, was it like a $500?
Correct. That's what the ordinance calls for.
Sure. I just wanna make
The
sure I'm-
the ordinance calls for the first violation of 500 and subsequent, it goes up.
Sure.
And I think I included a copy of the ordinance in the
Yeah,
packet,
it's-
okay.
right here. So.
And they knew well beforehand that they needed to comply and reapply?
Yes, they are notified in early April.
Okay. Yep. That's,
Every year it happens.
And they have not been fined previously?
No,
What would the council like to do?
Find them.
Yeah.
They've been in business long enough. They know the rules to doing business.
Anyone else?
Yep, it's part of running a business is being responsible for the day in and day out, so. Especially if it's happened in the past.
So do I have to get a motion, I'm
yeah,
assuming?
we need a motion for that, right?
That is correct. We need a motion for each entity, and if that motion passes, myself and staff will work together on developing findings that will be brought back to the council for formal approval then.
So are they fined each violation, or are we just, could they be charged for section 340 and for section 29?
You know, right now, staff is just recommending we consider the fine. I don't have a concern if you only do the 500, I think that's fine at this point.
Okay.
We've never fined them before and we've had issues, so.
So let's start with Mr. Jims is the first one on mine. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I move that we fine Mr. Jims the $500 required.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all four say aye.
Aye.
Against? Nay. And now we'll go on to Stone Creek.
Motion to fine Stone Creek $500 in violation of liquor ordinance.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? If not, all four say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Nay.
Nay. Motion carried. Public hearing, liquor license renewals. So at 5:42, I'll close the regular meeting and conduct a public hearing on liquor license renewal on, say, do I have to do each one individually or can do them all?
Nope, you can do it as listed on the agenda.
You want me to speak it out, or am I good to?
Nope, I can put it up there.
'Kay.
And there's agenda copies available in the back if somebody wishes to see the listing.
So we're just doing number 8 right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Is
You
there
do it as
anyone,
one public hearing.
Yep.
Yep.
is there anyone to speak for or against any of the, there we go, listed on number 8? Anyone to speak for or against all the items listed on number 8? Anyone to speak for or against all the items on number 8? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting at 5:43. And I'd be looking for a motion to approve all these. Sorry, I'm
Excuse
not
me.
gonna yet.
So move.
Well,
Not
hold
yet.
on, hold on. One comment, part of the financial responsibility is the payment of taxes. Mr. Jims has not paid their property taxes, and per the ordinance and law, we are required to have them make that payment as a condition of their license. Would you like to add anything on that?
An option the council would have is to condition the license on the payment of any taxes within a time frame. I would recommend 30 days. If they would do that, then the license could be issued. However, it cannot be issued until that financial responsibility is taken care of.
When do these go into effect? July 1? So if do we have to do that separate for Mr. Jims, or can we contingent?
You would want to make a separate motion for Mr. Jims.
Okay.
I just wanna clarify, can I still certify it to the state for the renewal, or does it have to wait until the taxes are paid in
It
full?
would have to wait till taxes are
Okay.
paid.
Okay.
So, Mr. Jims has Sunday on sale and on sale liquor. Excuse me. I'd look for a motion to grant their license contingent on them paying their property taxes.
Within a
Within-
time frame.
Within 30 days.
Within 30 days of today or 30 days of July 1?
The council could have the discretion, I would recommend of today.
Okay. So I'd look for a motion to grant them liquor license for on-sale and Sunday on-sale liquor, contingent on them paying their taxes June 4th.
30 days from June.
30
Yeah,
days from June
30
4th,
days to
excuse
meet
me.
this requirement.
Anyone like to motion that?
I move that we grant the license on contingent of the taxes being paid by 30 days from June 4th of 2024.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all four say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. And now we will look for a motion to grant the licenses for the rest of the,
Yep, Mr. Mayor. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Finish the liquor. Sorry. I was on the next one.
I'll make a motion to approve liquor license for the remainder of 8.
I'll second that.
I have one comment now because I just noticed they have non-enclosed premises for Mr. Jim's. I didn't see that till I got far enough down the. Can we amend the first motion that Deb made? Or do I want to finish this one?
Deb can make a motion to amend her original motion, and then that can be approved if the council so chooses, and then we can go back to approving the other liquor license if the council wishes.
Thank you. Did you catch that?
Well,
the
I'm not sure I
non-enclosed?
understand it, but,
Well, there was
I will
two
amend.
things. Thank you.
and I have no problem.
Are you amending to include the
Non-
non-enclosed premises on sale liquor?
Yes.
Do we need a motion or we need a second? Or excuse me, do we need a second or do we need a roll call?
A second would be necessary.
Need a second, please.
I'll
Second.
second.
Motion's made and seconded. All four say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carried. Now, Brandon, the rest of 8, please.
Yes, I make a motion to approve the remaining liquor license renewals.
And I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All four say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carried. Tobacco licenses. Brenny Oil, Casey's, Coburn's Grocery, Little Duke's, Speedway, Super Spirits.
And I have one more addition, Smoking Joe's.
Smokin' Joe's.
This does not require a public hearing, but they do need to meet all the financial responsibilities of the license, including payment of property taxes.
Was there anyone in violation from last year? I remember something, or was that 2 years ago already?
That was
2 years?
Casey's.
Okay, good enough.
I think everyone passed this last year.
Very good. Can I get a motion to approve, do I need a motion?
Yep.
Yes?
Yep,
Motion
need
to
a motion.
approve the tobacco license for the listed retailers.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All four say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carried. 10, public hearing 2025 improvements. I'm gonna start with, yep, let's start with you, and then we'll get into the public if they have comments as we get going here.
Okay. So I am going to, see if this comes through. Good. Okay. So, Mr. Mayor and Council, we've obviously been working through this 2025 improvement project, and we had a great turnout at a community meeting last week, but I wanted to summarize. I've given you a couple different cost impacts. And I wanted to go over that today, just to provide you an additional update on what we're looking at with the estimates we have on hand. So essentially, this is a project that we're looking to issue bonds for, to finance. There's some requirements we have to follow with issuing bonds. Essentially, we're looking at a roughly 5.28 million bond amount. This just kind of gives you an overview. This is straight from our fiscal advisor on what those costs of issuing bonds are, what the estimated rates at right now, and then what like an annual statutory debt service would be. So just is kind of high level what you kind of see the impact is on the city for issuing those bonds. And this is on a 15-year issuance. We have been looking at the 20-year, so any numbers that I give you today, if we go to the 20-year, it would obviously lower them slightly. All this information that I'm going to talk about today is summarized in that last sheet that was following this presentation, where there's project 1, project 2, and then like the third scenario. So I'm basically covering the project 1 scenario on that summary sheet. So when we issue bonds for a project, we have a number of funding sources that come into play. They include water and sewer revenues. So those are fees that we charge to all residents and business owners of the community, and that covers all the pipes in the ground, the water, sewer pipes, the facilities, anything that we have related to providing water and sewer for the overall community. We also have a portion that's paid for by special assessment revenue. So a lot of the people here receive notice of special assessments to their property. They are a benefited property owner to the project, and so they pay a portion of the project costs, and we use that to pay back the bond. The remaining, or the largest chunk, comes from the property tax levy. So this is the city's overall costs, and typically this is associated with like the street surface, like the blacktop, the sidewalks, storm, those things that are not attributed to the special assessment side of the individual property owners or the pipes in the ground, because every component of the project is funded based on where it's coming from. So we obviously had some estimates that were provided earlier, like last year, that indicated a higher impact to the tax levy and a lower impact to the water and sewer funds. What our latest estimates show is pipe costs or expenses related to the water and sewer revenues are higher. So what we have found with the latest project estimate, and the engineer will go over some of those costs as well, is on the water side, we need additional annual revenues of about $131,000 to pay for this project, to pay for the city's chunk that's left after special assessments. And that results in an increase overall of revenues of 23%. So 23% on the water side. On the sewer side, we are looking at needing an annual of additional $92,000. That's an increase of about 6%. Lower percentage because obviously our sewer rates are higher. We're generating more sewer revenue at this point. So it's a lower percentage. But this is just to cover the pipe costs for that side or that work. And it has to be paid for out of enterprise funds. You can't, it's not recommended you pay for them out of general property tax levy. We are supposed to have all of our water sewer account holders contribute to that. The last component, the property tax levy, we're estimating it's going to need about $136,000 annually to cover the bond payment, and that's a 10% across the board of the overall city property tax levy. So that is the total amount of dollars that the city goes to the county to ask for. We basically say we need this much money, we're estimating 10% more. The impact on the residential and commercial can vary because everyone is taxed at a different rate. So residential homes are not taxed at the same rate as commercial values because of the mill rates and how the state classifies your property. So that's why it may not be 10% for everybody, but that's what it is overall as a city. And then I just pulled, and these were on your sheet as well, these are just some of the numbers that we're estimating based on your property value. Now, we don't determine the property values, that's handled through the county assessor, but as you can see, $100,000 home, about $46 a year added to their tax bill, just to pay for the general portion of the project. Higher homes, 300,000, you're looking at 186. Commercials varies about, 96 to up to 700 depending on the value. So obviously the higher value, you're gonna pay more, and that's typical of how property taxes work.
So that's just for your property, that's not the water or sewer part you talked about 2 slides ago.
That's correct, they both would come into play.
So that's 10%.
So the water and sewer would be one portion that they would pay on the bills that they get monthly from us. The property tax would come on their statement that they get from the county. And other considerations, like I mentioned before, I just wanna make sure the council is aware, the final costs can fluctuate. Sometimes when we bid projects, pipe costs come in lower, higher. You can see fluctuations in blacktop, and cement, whatever it may be. The final amount, the final impact will be determined on the final project bid. And we will split all that out and charge each, whether it's water, sewer, or the levy accordingly. The other thing, we're still a little uncertain on interest rates. We haven't seen quite the uptick that they've seen in some of the other markets, like the mortgage market and so forth, but, we're only guessing at this point what it's gonna be. The city does have a really good bond rating, so, I'm hoping that will help us. We've historically done well with the credit review, so, that all plays into part of it. But I can't, guarantee these are gonna be the numbers if we move forward and cross the finish line. It can vary. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions about that? I just kinda wanna give you the overlying what that impact is for the community, for that improvement project.
Could you go back, Sarah? You had 3.5% right now? Is that what I saw up there?
For what?
The
Oh, the
rate?
interest?
Yeah.
3.52 is the average,
Okay.
We estimated the, property owners at, like, I think 4, because we typically round up a percentage. I don't think we will round up a full percentage. I think we can run the numbers a little tighter, but that's what we're at. I've been hoping it'll come down, but
Right,
I think we have some in the 2s.
right.
Yeah, it's gone up.
I don't think we'll see 2 though.
No, I would, from our planning perspective, we should not go any lower than
Yeah.
that. So, I know the earlier numbers had more on the tax levy and less on the water and sewer accounts. I just wanted to make sure that split has changed with some of the updated numbers that we're getting. And that's kinda, the engineers adjusting those figures based on some of the, costs they're seeing come through in some other projects, and so it's always gonna change.
Yep.
If you're good with that, then we can move
Yeah.
on to Jared's.
Let's hear Jared's good news.
And there are copies back there at the table, if anybody, of this presentation as well. We had some extra from the community meeting, so.
Yeah, so this presentation will be essentially the same one that was given at the council meeting for the feasibility study back in April, and then also at the neighborhood information meeting last week.
Jared, just introduce yourself if there's people here who don't know you. Thank you.
For tonight, my name is Jared Griffith. I work for SDH, the city engineer for the city of Foley. And tonight we're here to talk about the 2025 Street and Utility Improvement Project. I'll go to the next slide there, Sarah. Preliminary schedule for what we got going on for this project. SDH was authorized to do the feasibility study for this project in November of 2023. As I mentioned earlier, we brought the report to the council, and it was accepted by the council in April of 2024. Last week at a neighborhood information meeting, and tonight we are here for the public hearing for the improvements on the project. Next slide, please. Up there is the project location for 2025 improvements. Essentially, we will be replacing 3rd Avenue from John Street to Murphy Street, Broadway from the highway to Penn, and then 4th from just south of the highway to just the intersection of Norman. Murphy Street from 3rd Avenue to Broadway, and then Parent Street from 4th to Broadway. Next slide, please. This project area was in the original CIP back in 2009 slated for 2011, as shown on the slide here in purple. It also was in our 2020 capital improvement plan slated for 2020. Next slide. The purpose and need for this improvement is to replace deteriorating streets and utilities, improve drainage, and address ADA ped ramp and sidewalk deficiencies. Next slide. Existing conditions, as we all are aware, there are surface improvements that are needed, as I mentioned before, deteriorating streets. But looking at what we have here, we'll group them all together as far as Broadway, 4th and 3rd Avenue. Existing footprints are roughly 50 to 53 feet wide, with a curb and gutter, no gutter, curb and no gutter, sorry. Angle parking on Broadway, sidewalk on both sides except for the east side of Broadway. Ped ramps are non-compliant, and they all have the existing subsurface infrastructure as far as cast iron water main and vitrified clay. Other than a small portion of water main that was replaced in '94 on 3rd Avenue and 2003 on Broadway. And there's also existing storm sewer on 4th Avenue. Parent Street and Murphy Street are roughly 20 to 55 feet wide, mostly no curb and gutter. Sidewalk on the north side of no sidewalk at all on both those corridors, and no sanitary water and storm in those areas. And then the alley that we are proposing for this project is from Murphy Street to Penn, and those are existing footprint is 10 feet wide with no water and sanitary storm. Next sheet, please. Here's a picture of the deteriorating surface on, I believe it's 3rd Avenue. And the next slide shows kind of the ped ramp deficiencies and some drainage concerns at the intersection of Murphy and 4th. So if you want to jump to the next slide after this one, we'll kind of just have this up there while we look at these. Our proposed footprint essentially for our streets for Broadway Avenue and 3rd Avenue would be to reconstruct those at a 42-foot wide road with curb and gutter, replace the diagonal parking, but also and keep that in front of the dentist's office and the church, and then replace sidewalk on the east side. 4th Avenue or Coney Road, sorry, the next slide, sir. 4th Avenue, we're proposing a 50-foot wide roadway, which is mirroring the existing conditions, with curb and gutter on both sides, and sidewalk also on both sides. And the next slide for Parent and Murphy. We are, in our feasibility study, we proposed a 32-foot wide roadway, curb and gutter on both sides, and then sidewalk on the north side. Next slide. And the alley improvements are a 12-foot wide alley, bituminous, no curb and gutter. Sarah, you can jump to the next slide. So here are our proposed improvements for the storm sewer throughout the project area. As I mentioned before, the existing storm sewer is only on 4th Avenue. We are proposing to also run it up Broadway, and then also catch it on, extend it to the alleys, help with the drainage improvements on the alleys. Next slide. Sanitary, this is our sanitary sewer improvements, replacing all the existing sanitary sewer with PVC. Most of that will all be open trench, except for the portions that cross the highway, that will be jack and board. And then the sanitary services will be 4-inch for the residential and 6-inch for commercial. Next slide for the water main. Water main improvements, again, these all are proposed to be open trench, except for the 2 locations now that we are crossing the highway. Those will be jack and board as well. Residential services are 1 inch, and commercial services are 1.5 inches. Next slide. Based off our feasibility study, we have a total project cost for the city being 5.1 million. The total estimated cost for the county 1.4 million, bringing your project total to 6.5. As Sarah mentioned before, one of the ways that cities help pay for projects like this is through a Chapter 429 process, which is the special assessments. The cities, so the parcels up there in yellow are all the parcels that are included in our preliminary assessment roll. And so most of you, or all of you that are here tonight probably are on that, have properties on that list there. The city's special assessment policy, next slide, Sarah, is to essentially assess 30% of the project. That, depending on what category the improvements fall into, determines kind of how that is assessed. But for street, it's based off of the front footage. For the sanitary and water mains, it's also based off of front footage of the property. The services are per lot, and the storm sewer is a drainage area. As I mentioned, the city's policy is to assess 30% of those construction costs, or of the project costs, sorry. As Sarah mentioned before, in her little portion, the interest rate isn't yet set. Typically, they set it at 1% of the city bond. As Sarah mentioned, we may shrink that down a little bit, but that won't be determined until the assessment hearing, which will be in October, November of 2025. And also the term length, the term period of the assessments will also be determined at that time. And Sarah mentioned we're looking at the 15 to 20 year.
Not till 2025 on that?
Yes,
Okay.
we will have in that first slide, the improvement hearing is currently slated to be October, November of 2025.
Okay.
In that time period.
We also do not issue the bonds until the project is a go.
Okay.
Essentially.
There is an opportunity to have interest-free payments or prepayments and partial payments up to 30 days after the assessment hearing, and then after that, the remaining balance of your determined assessments will be added to your property tax. Next slide. This is a breakdown of each kind of individual portion of the project: street, sanitary, storm, water. Roughly, we're looking at street cost for the project is 3.4 million. Storm sewer cost 763,000. Sanitary sewer 897,000, and then the water main 1.2 million. Also, that was in another kind of category that was included in our preliminary assessment was the we called it the private sanitary sewer. That relates to the city's I&I ordinance, which states that essentially whenever a project improvement comes by your property and you're on the list of services that have issues, that you need to either have that done with the project or do it yourself and hire your own contractor during that time of construction. And that is, if it's done with the project, which in this feasibility study it was assumed that that cost would be 100% assessed to the homeowner. As I mentioned before, the rates and how assessments are determined are based off of, like for street, for instance, it's based off of front footage. Those costs are essentially your 30% is your assessable cost divided by the assessable unit, which in this case for street is front footage. And same with the sanitary and water, like as mentioned for services, it's per lot. Storm sewer is a square foot drainage. And so up on the screen is the rates for this feasibility study. On the screen now is an example assessment of an interior lot that has sanitary sewer and water main. For the sake of this example, we have essentially an 80-foot front footage, and then the depth of the lot is 120. 4-inch sanitary sewer service and a 1-inch water main service. Going through each of those and applying each rate for each category, the assessment for that property would be $26,000. Next screen. Here's another example of a corner lot which has a short side of 60 feet and a long side of 120 feet. Same scenario where they have water and sanitary service. Per policy, corner lots are treated a little differently than interior lots, where they're assessed for the full short side and half the long side for their service improvements, so in this case streets, and only the short side for the subsurface improvements, so water and sanitary. So in this instance here, if we apply all the rates to the different categories again, this property is looking at roughly a $31,000 assessment. And for a final, breaking everything together, we are looking for roughly an estimated city cost of $3.5 million, total estimated assessments of 1.6, and estimated county costs of 1.4 million, bringing in your total to that $6.5 million. Next slide again is just the schedule moving forward. Tonight is the June 4th improvement hearing. This is just the next step as far as moving the project forward. Tonight the council will have the opportunity to either order the improvement or not, which just essentially means that we move forward with design. Does not mean that we are constructing by any means. It's just the next step. So,
What is the time frame on construction are you looking at?
construction will be starting, if we move forward with the project, it'll be starting in the late spring, early summer of 2025. Then constructing most of that during that season, and then having that final lift in 2026.
Okay.
Would be how that would work. With that is the presentations I have tonight. If you have any questions for me right now, I can see if I can answer those. If not, I think I'll probably head back
I think we'll
when
get
they
into
come up here.
I think we'll get into the public hearing. There'll
Alright.
probably be questions then.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
This is the list of people that signed up for the hearing.
Sure. So should I close the regular meeting now? All right. At 6:13, we'll close the regular meeting to conduct a public hearing on the 2025 improvement. Anyone like to speak? I have a list of some people. If anyone would like to speak now, or I can go off the list. It's up to you. Come up to the podium, state your name, and we'll hear what you have to say. Kim Lateral.
Jim Lateral, 511 Broadway North. I'm just wondering if there's been any changes on the plans as far as what's going in where. Is it gonna stay going like what he's saying, or are we gonna change anything, possibly?
Jared, is this the red you gave me for recommendations, or is that what he's talking about, I guess, is the question?
Yeah, so as far as changes in our feasibility study, no. But the council definitely has the opportunity tonight to make any changes they need to, or they would like to, based off of street widths, where sidewalks are located, things like that. Definitely are on the table tonight for you guys to make some comments as far as how we want to move forward with design, if we do move forward with design. Yeah, and to answer your question, the comments in red, some of those are related to,
From the public hearing?
yes, or from the neighborhood informational meeting.
Yep.
Yep.
So I don't wanna repeat myself from last week, so should I just wait to see if any changes are made?
What's your,
I mean, I'm under the impression, in order for us to move to design stage, if we had any thoughts or concerns about what was currently presented, we could ask or suggest edits.
Yeah.
With the, as far as moving into the design stage. If we didn't want sidewalks in certain places, or we wanted sidewalks in certain places, we would discuss that tonight, suggest those edits, and move on to approving design stage if we so chose to move on to design stage.
So then, don't ask any more questions about that until you guys talk.
well, I think we're supposed to talk about it now, aren't we not?
I think tonight's the night, I didn't know that, but we need to. bring up
Mr. Mayor,
why
if I may interject, we certainly want to hear what you have to say, but we do have people listening online too, so if you could just wait to come up to the podium to speak so we can make sure we all hear you and that the record's clean, that would be appreciated. And I did want to state too, when we're talking about approving or moving forward with the design stage and approving the order to move forward, the council does also have the option to table this essentially and to consider it at a future meeting as well too if more information is needed.
So Kim, what is your
Well-
concern, I guess, as far as?
Well, I have my concerns in front of our house on Murphy.
Okay,
That sidewalk and boulevard and everything that's in there is not gonna fit.
okay,
It's not gonna fit. And I think the guy, are you on Penn? Parent, he's got the same issue there with his driveway length and everything. So when he speaks, he can say what he wants to say.
okay. Anything else?
That 10% increase on our taxes right away, is that gonna be the amount of your house after your assessment is added to it?
That's in addition to your assessment. The 10% is across every property in the city limits.
Okay, so if the house is at $150,000 and I got a $45,000 assessment, is that gonna put my house at $200,000?
No, the taxes are the taxes. The benefits test on your assessments is a different piece. The taxes is a separate entity or a separate item from the assessment, but you will get both. You will be assessed your improvement value, and then you will also get the general property taxes as well. But what you're speaking to about the value of your house, that's the benefits test. That is its own, and maybe the attorney wants to chime in on what that means.
Yes, so the special benefits test, that's its own evaluation that cities will consider when setting the different assessment rates too. They want to make sure that the benefit you're receiving from the improvement project does not exceed the value, essentially, that is brought to your house through that.
Oh, so my assessment might not be that at the end, right? Because that's gonna go way above the value of my home.
So that's something that we'd have to look at based on the property, but property owners do have the ability to challenge assessments as well too if they follow the proper procedure.
But you know as well as me, that ain't gonna happen.
Property owners challenging
Right.
assessments? It can happen.
It can.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. It won't, but it can. Okay, well, I'm gonna wait with the rest of it until we get it figured out, what we're gonna do with them streets.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Karen Campa, your name is on here.
I live on Broadway. I understand you're gonna narrow the street. It's a freeway now, how can you narrow it?
You said you live on Broadway, correct?
Yes,
Yeah, so the proposed improvements is a 42-foot wide roadway, which is essentially the same as what we have on Second and Third on the south side of the highway right now. And that footprint is handling the traffic well down on this side. And we anticipate the same for Broadway as well. There's more school traffic, yet as far as backed up traffic, yes, but as far as, handling the footprint, it should be sufficient, a 42 foot wide
So, okay, we
road.
got the traffic, and then can we park then on the street? One person on each side, plus the traffic?
On Broadway?
Yes.
Yeah, Broadway will have roughly a, 40 foot wide road from curb to curb, and so that'd be 12 foot drive lanes, that's 24, and so that'd be,
Well, the school is in use
yeah,
every day of the week,
correct.
so there's traffic.
Yep.
Which is good. I'm glad the building is used. But we have to make room for traffic.
Yeah, to your point, there will be parking on both sides of the road, in addition to the diagonal parking for the church and the dentist.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak?
My name's Joe Burgart. I live at 510 Broadway Avenue North. Couple questions. I know last week I wasn't here for the meeting, but somebody mentioned that, have you guys considered, that is not a typical neighborhood street. There's only 3 ways to get to the schools in Foley. So technically, to me, that should go around to every resident here. And then the other question I have is, I know, Jared, you were trying to answer some of it on the screen, but how do you guys come up with the fullest assessment of each resident? And the reason why I'm asking, I'll tell you the reason why I'm asking. Because I talked to my neighbor, they have the alleyway. I don't have an alleyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I'm still $4,000 over his estimate, and he's got an alleyway.
Do you have a larger front footage than your neighbor?
I do. I probably
Okay.
have the biggest on the block.
That's probably what it is. It's for the street rate is essentially the highest rate there, and so,
So
having that
what's the corner lot you said?
corner lots are the policy for corner lots are the full short side and half the long side for determining essentially the denominator of your
Right,
of
and
that
it
rate.
would be, what, 60 by 120?
In that example, yes. Yep.
So how much
so
does
it'd be,
it
so it'd be
cost me?
60 and a 60 footer.
How much does it cost me per foot extra that I gotta pay?
Are you a corner lot or are you interior lot?
Interior.
Interior lot. So you'd be the full front footage of your property. Say it's, I don't know if it's 60, 80, 100, I'm not sure what it is. But it would be that front footage times the street rate on the screen.
And how thick is the pavement gonna be?
I believe we have 3.5 inches of bituminous.
That's a driveway.
That thickness,
Yeah.
that's the same thickness that we used on the streets to the south here. That's a
Probably the
pretty
reason why
pretty
they break
standard.
real easy though.
The proposed thickness for Fourth is 4 inches instead of 3.5. But there's higher traffic volume on that county road versus.
I mean, you're gonna
Broadway.
have taken effect that there are school buses that run down that road.
Yep.
There are semis running down that road delivering to our school. So you have to think about the thickness. It has to be greater. I mean, 3 inches is standard for a driveway pavement.
3.5 for the street, but yes, yep, you're correct.
So, I mean, I guess you taken it in consideration because that is a well-used road in this town.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not your typical neighborhood. I don't go down south end of town and drive around. you
yeah,
know.
the difference between that would be that a driveway has 6 inches of roughly aggregate material below it, where we're proposing roughly a foot of that plus the select material, like the more granular material below that. So the section of the road doesn't meet our standard that we need for structural components of our.
And I guess
project.
I would also agree with Kim on, from Broadway Avenue to 4th Street, on Murphy Street, there doesn't need to be sidewalks. My house sits right there, I can look out the window, 4 or 5 people in a week's time walk down that street. To me, that's just an added cost that we don't need. And right now, I guess the other option looking at is the economy is so bad right now. Can we hold off on this project for a couple more years to see what the economy is going to do? because the cost of everything has went so sky high, and you're gonna throw extra money that it's gonna cost me, you'll bankrupt me, just because everything has went so high.
Hmm. Yeah, to your point, as far as having sidewalk on certain streets, that's
That's up
possibly up for discussion tonight.
with the council.
Yeah.
I mean, are you guys gonna talk about it?
But it's,
Yeah,
but as
You
far
gonna
as.
talk to the people here about it, or are you gonna talk amongst yourself? And
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
'cause
amongst yourselves.
from what I heard from the last week, everybody was asking questions, and nobody was getting any answers. So let's get some answers.
okay.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
You're welcome. Sandy, were you gonna speak?
No, I wrote my name on the wrong list.
Thanks. How about Carrie? Rhoda?
Hi, my name's Carrie Road, obviously, you just announced my name. My concerns are that we're all penny pinchers and we're careful with our dollar. And I wanna make sure that you guys are just as careful with our dollar. Because I don't know if he even walked through our neighborhood. I don't know if he took the time to do that. I don't know if that's his normal job, but I feel like we got a cookie cutter description. And when I asked him, why do we have to have 6 foot? Is it a law? Why do we have to have for our boulevards, for our street, our sidewalks? And he said it was like preference. And it made it easier. Life's not easier on us. We want you guys to make it for our neighborhood. We have an old neighborhood, it's beautiful. It's gonna not be beautiful, and I understand why, because you can't keep all the beautiful trees alive, but when you walk down our uneven, crooked sidewalk, even though it's not handicap accessible, you feel nature embrace you. There is a sense of peace that comes over you. You can sit there and feel the wind going through the leaves, speaking to you, if you let it. I mean, I know I sound like a tree hugger, whatever, a hippie person right now, but it's true. Mature trees do 10 times or more benefit than a baby tree. And I went driving through the new roads. There's like 2 baby trees, a block in the boulevard. Why bother? What's the point? It's not that pretty. It just looks out of place. So, I mean, I think we need to build something that reflects our neighborhood. There's old neighborhoods in other cities. What are they doing? Are they chopping down all their trees and making cookie cutter solutions in their neighborhoods, their historical neighborhoods? I know some people think we're in the ghetto. We're the ghetto people because we have old homes. I like my old home. I love my old home. It's not hollow. When I walk through my house, it's a solid sound. You go through a new construction building and it's slapped up so fast, it echoes everywhere and it's just a different sound. So I really hope that we take into account my neighbors. It's not that we can't pay for it, maybe. Some of us can't. Some of us can. Some of us don't want to pay that bill because it's extravagant and it doesn't fit our area. So please help us fix this to fit our neighborhood. Yes, and by the way, when 3 o'clock hits, it's like the raceway took off. Especially before the seniors get let loose at the end of the year. They are crazy and they're screaming at the stop signs. So.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Come on up, please.
Hi, I'm Sue Janey and I live at 301 Murphy Street.
Thank you.
So I'm the house at the corner, and I guess I have a real hard time because I did ask last week, you know, the big advantage to narrowing the road. And I have, you know, and when I first heard, hey, they're not gonna touch, you know, our side, they're gonna do it to the other side, I thought, yay, I'm out of it. But then I looked at it and I looked at the neighbors across the street, And I see when they come through with a boulevard and a sidewalk, they're not gonna have any place to park. The driveway is gonna be shortened. And so even though a person might have another slab next to the driveway, they're not gonna be able to get more than 2 vehicles barely in front of their driveway. And they said the biggest thing is for uniformity, and then they did say, yes, there is a difference. It's easier to maintain a boulevard versus pavement. Well, that's true, and I thought, well, if they narrow the road, maybe I'll get plowed closer to my house, because in the corner there, I took a lot of calls to City Hall to find out if they could come and take the snow, because I would have trouble getting to work in the morning because I'd have 20 feet, in front of my driveway that wasn't plowed because of that. And I mean, they usually came to get it, not always, and it's been much better the last few years type thing. But it's just the whole idea too. I'm thinking, and it says it's in both sections, the pro is, it's traffic calming to narrow it. Well, in the 32 wide, it's traffic calming. Well, it's not traffic calming because, yes, we get a lot of speedsters coming through. They cut across to get to the highway through Murphy Street there. So I think making it narrower, I'm thinking that corner and everything, could be a big issue and a problem when you start narrowing things there and people are racing through to get to the highway, when they cut across through Murphy Street. So, anyway, that's all I have right now.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Come on up, please.
My name's Adam Punzak. I'm on 610 4th Avenue. I'm on the corner of 4th Avenue, so I see a lot of the school traffic, but I'm also on Parent Street. Now, Parent Street is got 3 driveways, and I want to say adding extra boulevard and extra sidewalks on that street would be unnecessary. Unnecessary costs, unnecessary making the road wider when that street is mainly 4 or 5 cars a day, maybe 2 or 3 people walking, but it's just people that live there. Now, adding all this extraordinary, we've heard tonight, cookie cutter stuff, it's just going to take a lot away from the community and from the neighborhood, when mostly it's just, some of these streets are just for the people that live there. I understand Broadway and 4th are high traffic areas for the school, and yes, we are near the school, but some spots we gotta go over this plan, cut a lot of it out, and keep the neighborhood beautiful. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Okay.
Nick Frisbee. I live on 4th Avenue, 431. I have a huge concern with shortening that road on Parent Street because, as my neighbor here says, that the driveway's already short. He has a 20-foot truck. You shorten it 6 feet. Where is he going to park? His driveway is already only 20 feet long. You shorten it 6 feet, now it's 14 feet. Can't park on the street in winter months. Can't park in his yard because you guys already made an ordinance saying that he can't park anything that doesn't have gravel or tar. So I ask you, where is he going to park his vehicles? I also would like to ask, does the city get to vote? Do the people of this community, do we get a chance to vote on this project? If not, then do we have any say in it? Do we have any say in what happens to our roads or what happens in front of our houses?
Oh, that's why you're here speaking now, so we can make amendments or make adjustments as necessary, listening to your concerns.
Okay. Yeah, I believe wholeheartedly, and I think everybody else here thinks that this project is pretty extravagant. A lot of it is unnecessary, and changing those side streets is just going to be a bigger hassle than what it is. So, I would love for you guys to consider that when you guys are making your decision.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak? Going once, going twice? All right, at 6:35, I will close the public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting. Well, I would welcome your input right now.
First off, I have to tell you, I'm on 520 Broadway. I know a lot of what you're saying. And I want you to know that my vote will consider my neighbors as well. I'm sitting here and I listen to you talk about, you don't know. Unfortunately, I know. So I just want you to know that I live on Broadway. I am involved on the city council, so of course I will be part of the process. But I am thinking as a person that lives there, just like you guys. That's all I wanted to let you know.
Thank you. As far as design changes go, does the council have any considerations with, most of the stuff was spoken on about here tonight, so I guess.
I mean, it's sidewalks is the clear message across, all constituents and concerns.
Basically, the east-west roads, not so much
Sure.
the north-south.
Which I think we've talked in great lengths about after the meeting as far as some feelings around the sidewalks on Murphy and Parent. So the next step would be making a motion to moving to the next step, but in doing so, we would also want to discuss then any design-specific changes.
Yeah, it's helpful for the city staff and the engineer to have a clear direction on what the council wishes to see. So if there are changes that they would like to have included, let's have those now. We don't want to have to come back and change plans later. That's more expensive. So that's why those comments were summarized in that email and are up for discussion, and you can provide that direction. And then you can order the improvement after you've discussed that, if you wish.
Though the improvement, we don't have to do the improvement tonight ordering it.
No, you do not. Like the attorney said, you can order the improvement tonight. If you need a little time to think through those things, we can bring it back to July. If you want to continue the project and have it for next year, we can't wait too long, because there is time associated with getting those plans and stuff ready.
Can we discuss this on Friday after our, whatever our meeting is, Friday budget meeting, or?
Yeah, I could add it. I just know we're on a tight timeline for that meeting.
I can't. I can't.
Okay.
But, I guess one of my concerns, again, hearing about the cost, which, I don't think any city USA, anyone's going to say I'm in favor of the cost and I want to be assessed, right? I think we can agree on that. The cost is not ideal. The one, comment is, it's not just the assessed properties, right? The entire city's paying for it. Everyone's going to see property tax increases from this project. And the water bill increases. What concerns me about this project then is we're also looking at another necessary project, which is the water treatment facility plant. And so that's where hearing those kinds of costs and the increase in property taxes, increase in water bills, and we also need to talk about water treatment facility plants, which is also a necessity. There are houses throughout our city that do not have good water. There's flow problems, there's, you name it. And I guess that concerns me about this project, just in general, thinking about this one, and then back to back going to water treatment facility.
Well, should we not do the project?
At the same time, the project needs to be done. Here we are pushing this project down, 15 years later, still kicking the can down the road. A project that would have cost significantly less if we would have just done it in the first place is now significantly more because of, right, costs have went up, inflation, you name it. And now this project is even more expensive than it would have been. And if we push this project further down the road, it's going to continue to get more expensive. And the fact is, it needs to get done at some point, because we continue to make repairs on these roads. And I don't know who pays for that. I'm not assuming any of the property owners are assessed or charging that. That's just out of the city's budget.
Some pipe issues underneath the road.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no denying the fact that there's some serious issues in those areas that need to be addressed. What happens if we decide not to do the project? Would the county still do Fourth? Or is it dependent on us doing our project that the county would still do at least Fourth?
That's up to the county, I guess. I mean, potentially, yes. It's on their plan to do it the same year, but they're probably more so the fact that that's also in the city's plan. That's when we're planning to do it as well in 2025. But to answer that question, I'd have to talk to the county on that one.
I mean, I'm fine removing some sidewalks from the side streets. I agree. It's unnecessary. To me, it's sidewalks in every street, or why add additional sidewalks where they're not already in place. But that, again, is a very minute percentage of the project. That's an easy thing to remove. The project itself is still going to cost upwards of $6 million. And I'm at concern with the water treatment facility plant, knowing that that's on the horizon as well. To me, that takes precedence over this project, and I'm concerned about what that's going to do also to the taxpayers and the water bills, et cetera, above and beyond what this project would handle. I don't feel comfortable making a decision tonight. That's my personal opinion.
Any other council members like to speak?
Well, we do have, our drinking water is an issue. And I think it's a bigger issue than a improvement project. We were looking at this because the county was gonna do their share on Fourth Avenue. It seems to me, hearing from you, that there seems to be a issue with measurements, sidewalks, and in order for me to vote for this project, I need some more answers. I need to see more measurements. What can we do? Can we think outside the box, Jared? Do we have to go 6 feet? If we go 4 feet, how much can we save off the project? I think we need to look at, instead of what the standard has been, let's look outside the box a little bit. If we have to narrow a street, or if we have to make it wider, I think that is a place to start. The numbers, $6 million, we're looking at that for our water treatment facility, and then, hopefully we get federal money with that. I think since 2009, the project has gained $2 million every year that we haven't done it. So we have to decide, do we want to put another $2 million on this project, or what are going to be our priorities? With that, we're going to have to shave, we'll shave sidewalks. We can shave the size of streets down to get the cost down. But overall, I agree with Brandon. We have a bigger project that we're looking at that serves a lot more people than just the people that this project for 2025 affects.
Except for the fact, Mark, how often do you fill the big holes in Broadway? 4 or 5 times a year? At least. On Parent. Turn on to Parent, and right where the storm sewer is, we have a 3-foot deep hole that you darn well better not fall in. It's been there for 6 years that I've lived there. It's, it's things like that. That's only gonna get worse. I can't, the end of my driveway, because of damage, when I go to snow blow, trust me, it's a challenge, because there's a rut that's been washed out. We're not talking little itty bitty baby holes here. We don't need the sidewalk. I can tell you on Broadway, if I see 6 people a day, and that's the school road, that's a big day. I mean, I do understand the school may end up having to cut some school bus riding. But at the bottom line for me is Broadway has been put off, put off, put off. Fourth, which has been put off, has had water main breaks. And that is contributed by vibrations and trucks. And we have semis, we have buses that do 45 miles an hour down Broadway. How do I know that? I do the math. I watch them turn at Gustavus Adolphus, and I do the math. Distance, time, and divide, and you got the speed. It's exactly what the radar gun does. And I can tell you, I don't like walking across my street to go to my mailbox because it's a hazard. Those all contribute to the condition of Broadway and 4th and 3rd. And they are not going to get less busy. We have a school. We have tournaments. We have buses. Not going to get better. It's only gotten worse, and it's been put off way too long.
Yes, I agree. I do feel it would be a poor decision to put the project off. I mean, it is in rough shape. There's no denying it.
And I might add, Brandon, I have orange clothes from the manganese. I have to use a Brita water filter. Even my dog gets Brita water. I get it.
Yes, I would hate to push the project
bear.
off, because all we've done is push this project off, and it's gotten worse, and it's gotten more expensive.
Yeah.
And it'll continue to get worse and continue to get more expensive. I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah, that's the way reality works.
You know, nip and tucking some sidewalks and looking at the design and doing what we can there, sure. But the bulk of the cost is going to be replacing the things you can't see. It's the sewer and the water. I mean, and then the reconstruction of the roads and the boulevards. That's the majority of the cost. And I live down the road from there, but I would imagine that, you know, and we have a homeowner's comment that says, yeah, I don't want to pay for it, and it's unfortunate, but it also needs to be done. I mean, and I would imagine most folks that live in those areas would agree that to some level the road and the sidewalks need some repair. That's not the major concern. It's what's underneath that needs to be replaced. That's the bigger concern. And unfortunately, that's also the bigger part of the project.
Gary, do you have any comments on this?
It's unfortunate that all this comes at one time. Wastewater, water improvement. We're well overdue with the improvements on the north side. Should have been done some time ago. I'm hoping that we can meet these people's concerns halfway with the sidewalks, width of the street, and get this improvement done. I hate to see it put off to the side, because it's going to be 2 and 3 times the cost of what you're looking at now. I would like to see it done, but sit down and meet these concerns, work through it. I think there's some changes made that we could do on Murphy and Parent Street. I agree that we don't need these sidewalks. It's not necessary. I've been driving the streets immensely the last few days. I saw a pickup parked in his driveway, and thank God it wasn't a full-size pickup, because he would have lost his bumper hitch or whatever, because I've been in the street. It's, there's gotta be some modifications made, and, I know it's tough on the city budget, but if we wanna make the improvements, we have to pay the price. And I think if we can meet their concerns, I'm in favor to go ahead with the project.
With revisions,
Yeah.
with revisions.
Correct.
Yep.
So with that said, we should table this and work out some revisions or before we order the improvements and bring it back.
Did you wanna just discuss some of those now? Cause I think
Yep.
there's some consensus if you wanna do
I
that.
mean, it sounds like the big concern
Well, the
is
people
Parent
are
and
here
Murphy
too.
sidewalks.
Yep.
I mean,
Parent and
can we,
Murphy
can we
sidewalk.
agree that those can go away?
Yes.
I mean, we can't make that decision tonight.
Yeah, we can.
Pretty much
Yeah.
agreed that
Yeah.
we don't need those sidewalks. Let's keep the streets to where they're comfortable. A certain curb and gutter
Yeah.
to take care of the,
The
water
sewer water,
problems.
yeah, wastewater and
And,
stormwater.
Yeah, it's very,
So-
and trees, no,
There's
we
nothing
don't
you-
like to remove any
yeah.
trees that we have to, but I'm sure there's gonna be some that have to be taken out. Our concern is to keep as many as we are, but I'm sure there's gonna have to be some that are removed.
The
That's,
sidewalk that you're referring
that's
to,
inevitable.
is that just on Parent and Murphy between Fourth and Broadway?
That's all I'm concerned about.
Okay.
The other one, that's kind of halfway down the block and ends, I think that should be continued to make it, but I'm more concerned with Murphy and Parent Street, interlocking Fourth and Broadway, those two there.
Okay.
What width do you want on Murphy then? 36 or 32?
Whatever it ends up being with adding curb, it needs to have curb and gutter. I mean, it has to have curb and gutter. That shouldn't take too much from the width. But
We're getting there. 36 or 32, that's what I'm looking at in front of me.
well, can it be 36 with curb and gutter?
When I look out my window at Murphy, it needs to be 36.
There we go.
I mean, I'm looking almost directly at the south side. They have driveways that are like mini driveways. They need the ability
Well,
to,
You know, we talk about the students getting out and the traffic and the speed. I mean, I think someone mentioned to me that there was stop signs there. All of Parent and Murphy are all yield signs. There is no stop signs. That might help with some of the, I don't know, excessive speeds or the cutting across.
Those are for the side streets coming onto Fourth and Murphy, there's not intersections there besides residents. There's not speeders on Murphy or Parent.
yeah, those,
Those are short blocks, very short.
But there's yield signs though entering.
Coming onto the main road.
Okay.
yeah, the speed is on
From the
Murphy, or
north and
Broadway and
south.
Fort.
Okay.
It's not the two,
Side roads.
Okay.
Side
No one's using the
roads,
side roads.
they're-
Okay.
All right.
although they do that to evade being seen.
All right, reconstructing or alley from Murphy to Highway 23 not being proposed to be reconstructed. Mark? Alley from
The
Murphy
first
to Highway
alley.
23.
Yep.
It needs it?
I think it should be done.
And right now it's
Yeah.
proposed not to be done?
It was supposedly done in '93, but it obviously maybe wasn't
That was like,
built back then.
that was like 30 years ago. So I mean, I would be fine resurfacing it and adding it to the same width as the current proposed other two alleyways. So we have a continuous,
It closed all
fresh alleyway throughout. Makes sense.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Mayor, I think we did get a 60K for that?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, 60K was the estimate to add that.
general comments about water drainage on Murphy and Parent. Curb and storm sewer will improve that.
Hopefully that'll correct it.
Yeah, that's,
That'll take care of that.
Yes.
that's the idea, yep.
Okay, trees, try and save them. That's all I can tell you, go ahead.
Let's not sugarcoat it, we're gonna lose 90% of those trees up there.
Well, I'm sure.
And we're talking about the ones that are along the sidewalks, correct?
And
I mean,
we're
we're,
trying to move
no,
this-
there's no trees that are gonna be lost within the actual yards.
And if we request is to make driveways longer, now we move the sidewalk in, that sidewalk's gonna go right down that tree. So, you're gonna have a sidewalk like that to make the people happy to get the longer driveway, and then do the tree, you can only have one or the other.
I mean,
And we
The
look over here
longer
on Second.
driveways are on Parent and Murphy, not Broadway and,
There was concerns on Third at the public meeting
Yep.
last week.
that's
Murphy.
right, yep.
I'm sorry, but if we lose trees, we lose trees.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but
they're
we
also,
can-
they're also causing causing a lot of
Yes,
damage
they
at the same
do.
time. I
Yep.
mean.
Unfortunate, we don't want, I love trees.
Alright, anyone else on the council have anything to add to this?
Is it a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1? Have we determined that for sure?
It was on the Dewey Street project, we removed 29 of them and replaced, or installed, planted 15.
Yep.
So 2-to-1.
About a 2-to-1?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that projected for this project, 2-to-1, or about?
We can certainly do that tonight, yeah.
I mean, minimum, I would say 2-to-1.
Yep.
2-to-1
I
sounds
mean,
good, I
yeah.
guess, the consensus here.
Yep.
Do I need, I gotta get back to my sheet. So do you want to table that till you get a chance to do something with that, Jared? Before we order the improvements?
Are you essentially looking for
I don't know, I
new
suppose
estimate, new everything?
Yeah, so-
Is that
Yeah.
what you're looking for?
There'll be an
would-
impact on the estimate.
I would
of
like
it.
to see that before we move forward with the, next phase.
I mean, I think from a timing standpoint, we'd have to probably do a special meeting, otherwise we're waiting another month, and that's only gonna push the project and impact the opportunity or feasibility of actually completing it next year. So if we're,
Yeah, I can't
Ideally-
comment on that, but I know that's a
Ideally, you'd like
concern.
to start design probably no later than August.
Oh, we got time then.
And then, but you still have the topo, that takes a couple weeks, and if you wanna do that in July, certainly can do that, but, a lot of the questions about, where things are gonna fit in the footprint that's out there will be determined by, where the right of way actually lies. I know there's a lot of garages that, may or may not be next to the right of way, or, that location isn't determined yet until we calc the right of way, topo where that garage is at, and determine that at that phase. So how those will lay out, whether or not the street is right down the middle of the right of way or not, that can be determined, or will be determined during our design phase.
during design. So the only thing we can get from you between now and next meeting would be updated project estimates.
An updated estimate for the handful items you talked about tonight?
Removing some sidewalks, making sure it's a 2-to-1 tree. I think we already talked about sidewalks. That's not a
Width.
that's a very minimal percentage of the actual
Right.
project. We're not gonna see a big difference in pricing there.
Right.
I mean, I think he stated it was about $240,000 total in concrete
Right.
on a $6.5 million project. So we can comfortably say the budget ain't gonna change much by removing a couple of sidewalks.
Right.
Right.
2-to-1 tree or 3-to-1 tree also, I don't think is going to be a major
Yeah.
impact on a $6 million project.
Right.
Right.
The idea of the sidewalks was so that these homeowners have more room.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Make sure it's more
Yep.
manageable and
Yep.
and feasible for them to go about their day. So I don't know what we're gonna get from the budget isn't gonna change much
Right.
with these minor changes that we're asking for or requesting on a $6 million project.
So can we order these resolutions 2024-12, or do we have to wait for that to come back?
council's comfortable ordering tonight, they can order it tonight. We might have all the cost information. If they would like another meeting to hear more information, we'd need a motion to continue the hearing, and we'd state the date and the time of the next hearing on the record.
I think we
It
can
would
move
not be
forward.
renoticed because we're not necessarily changing the project.
Right.
So I was just clarifying with staff, we wanted to make sure that we didn't have to renotice with some of the changes, but I think we're okay. So it's up to the council if they wish to move forward tonight or wait for the cost estimates.
I think we could move forward.
Mark, we talked about marking and laying some of this stuff out so people could actually visualize and see what's being done. Is that still a possibility today?
Definitely is, if we have a width.
Would that be during like the design stage, or would that be before the design stage?
We can do it now, or,
Okay.
I mean, we're gonna be coming back with an estimate at the next council meeting, for the next one. That we definitely put up cones, kinda show what that width would be, if that's kinda what you're thinking of, some type of a demonstration of what is being proposed.
Is that what you're asking? Or is that does that give you an answer?
So what was the answer there? Yes, no?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to see that so these people could visualize what we're gonna do.
But we took the sidewalk off and they're getting wider streets, so I don't wanna pick on. Go ahead.
Well, yeah,
That's what
yeah.
you wanted, right? So you don't care if we put the.
Well,
I was gonna put
that
it-
street was about as narrow as Parent one time, and it got wide because of the clinic at the dentist. And that's why I couldn't understand why it was going back narrow. And there's maybe 2 people a week that walk down it. And I didn't see why I should have my front yard ripped up for a sidewalk that goes 40 feet to the street. I mean, I can walk on the street for 40 feet.
Yeah, but that one's been eliminated, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
But you know one thing, there's more people that walk up and down the alley than the sidewalks. Trust me.
All right, did someone wanna make a motion on this, or?
Mr. Mayor, I think there was one person that had a question
Can
in
we,
the back,
yep,
if you wanted
can we
to
get her
come
to
forward,
the
Travis.
podium? Name and address, please.
Pamela Visner, 600 Broadway Avenue North, Foley, Minnesota. I'm just want us to go over the question between why is the alley and the water drainage one. Could the accessible portion be lowered on this project? So instead of us being assessed 30, which is what Foley's normal is, could we go down to the 20, the minimum? The state minimum or the state maximum, whatever it is. Since there is so much extra traffic on Broadway Avenue and on 4, like, so that we wouldn't have to pay, I mean, everybody uses those roads. And when you say only 5 people are walking, there's 20 people in the morning that walk up and down that road, for sure, if not more. And all throughout the whole day, there's people walking. So, I mean, is there something that with the school buses going up and down those roads, the garbage men, I mean, we know the garbage men have to anyways, but like the construction workers, the trucks, the semis, all different people are riding on that road, not just, you know, like some roads you just have your people that you live and maybe a couple friends. We have tons of people that ride on Broadway Avenue.
We can consider it.
Thank
That's
you.
all I can say.
Yeah, and I'll add just on, in there,
Thank
that
you.
number you have there is the overall impact of going to 25%. We'd have to recalc everybody, but that's just what the engineers come through, so, and then the other point you'd have to remember is that would change, because that has to get reallocated and added to the tax levy or
Sure.
the water sewer revenues.
So
you know,
basically, if we robbed Peter to pay Paul,
Yeah.
we would lower the assessment rate, but then it would just get tacked on to the water and
Property tax.
tax rate throughout the town.
Yeah, cause we still have to pay for it.
Right, so
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of coming full circle, at the end of the day, which is fine. And to be clear, the county is paying for the entire 4th Avenue. I mean, the entire thing.
They're Jared can comment on exactly.
Not the entire thing.
The exact agreement between the city and county hasn't been determined yet, but in this feasibility study, the county is paying for the full surface improvements on Fourth and 60% of the storm sewer. City is 40% of the storm sewer, and then sanitary and water. And that's been past practice, yep.
Okay, and so that includes the resurfacing the sidewalks, the trees?
Yes.
Okay.
Nope. Didn't do trees on Dewey?
Streets, trees, sidewalks, like the above ground stuff.
The feasibility study, all service improvements are shown on as a county cost.
Okay.
Like I said, but the actual agreement between the city and county will be determined between now and
Then, sure.
awarding the project, essentially.
If I could add
Yeah.
one thing. The one thing too, the 20%, as was mentioned, that is a minimum. We just wanna be careful. We have to meet that in order to finance the project. If any of those, properties were to dip below that by the slightest bit, we are technically not qualified for our bonding. So we have to be careful and make sure that we're meeting the minimum at least, in order to meet the 429 statutes.
And we're projections at 30% assessed, right?
Yep, and
So-
30% that is the adopted assessment policy right now. That is what we did down here, that is what we did on Fourth South,
Mhm.
all the way over here. That has been the rate for quite some time now. But that is always up to the council policy to make that decision.
And can be determined later.
Yep,
Right,
yep.
not tonight.
Yep, it could be discussed and determined later, yep.
So then we need to make a motion then to move forward with
If
2025 improvements?
If you wish to move forward with the design phase, you can consider resolution 2024-12, ordering the improvement. I will note this improvement requires a supermajority of a 4/5 vote.
I'm entertaining a motion if anyone's speaking.
Do you wanna make a motion?
Nope. I do not wanna make a motion. I said I'm entertaining a motion.
I'll make the motion that we adopt, find my number here, I'm sorry.
2024-12.
Resolution 2024-12, ordering the improvement.
Is there a second?
With the options of making any revisions if we have to?
Yes.
Yep. Jared's shaking his head, yes.
Yeah, okay, I'll second that.
Is there any other further discussion? Do I gotta have a roll call or do I gotta?
We don't have to if it's conclusive, if the motion passes. If it doesn't, then we can call a roll call at that time if we need to determine the votes.
Okay. All for, any further discussion? All for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Nay. Motion carried. Discussion on garbage contract, RFP. We had three businesses send in RFPs. We've all had a chance to look at these things, or the bids, excuse me. And I would like the council to approve Jim's disposal of Malacca. Any other discussion?
Hold on, what was your comment?
I would want Jim's disposal of Malacca to be our garbage hauler.
So that you're making a motion?
Not making a motion, I'm just bringing that up right now. You guys can discuss it. Let me hear your thoughts, or else I can make a motion.
What are your thoughts?
I just said, I told you what my thoughts are.
Well, I do like Waste Management on the commercial end for sure. I think their commercial pricing is a little bit better than Jim's.
Well, Republic or Waste Management?
Waste Management.
Allied, it might be called in our
No,
thing.
waste management.
Allied and
Let me
waste
double check.
management are
I
the
thought
same.
waste management was higher. Hold on.
What
Make
is
sure I
that?
didn't write down the wrong notes here.
I do like Jim's, smaller, smaller receptacle. The 35 gallon, I do believe.
Am I reading this wrong? Commercial is outrageous compared to the rest of them with Allied and Waste Management, unless I'm looking at the wrong. I have for Waste Management for a 4 cubic yard, one time per week at $150.
I have for a 4 yard, 87. Well, that's every week. Every other week. Okay, that's my fault. That's my fault.
Yeah, waste management, one time a week was 162.20.
Yeah.
Jim's is 145. They came in way below
Yeah.
waste management.
I mean, I think we can all say residential across the board is about the same. I mean,
Right.
I'm not gonna split hairs on a quarter.
Right.
It really comes down to the commercial, and I do not believe that our commercial customers are going to get a better deal having it be willy-nilly and doing what they get. We're getting these prices projected at getting a contract. They will not get these prices on a one-time basis.
Right.
There's just no way. I spoke to multiple business owners. Quite honestly, they don't care, is what I've gathered. And secondly, they're happy with the service they have. Of course, they
True.
would like it to be cheaper. Through
True.
Republic, but of course they'd like to be cheaper.
Yep.
Who wouldn't?
Yep.
But I would not say out of the over a dozen personal conversations I had, did any of them say that the commercial prices are out of control, including some of our big commercial customers that have multiple liftings per week.
Mm-hmm.
And by splitting the two, if they came in with just residential, it looks like those prices raised a trifle bit because they didn't have the commercial,
Right.
from what I understand. Talking to the owner as far as increases go, that's would be more or less on a yearly basis, but with the council or the city in response, whereas others have an automatic 4% increase. And there's one here that has a fuel surcharge if it goes up beyond. Jim's, I didn't see any of that other than negotiation time, because we'll sit down and talk about it. It's a smaller entity. It's not a big corporate business. Just reading it, I think I'd be pretty comfortable with the communications with the entity and our business standard.
It's great.
My thoughts.
It's great the lawyers here because I have a
My
question.
thoughts only.
So I know we're entering into 5-year contracts,
Mhm.
which I will voice my concern. I think is not okay. I understand it from a business standpoint for the haulers and the contractors, of course. What happens if we are not happy with the service we are provided and we do not want to continue with them any longer? Can that be written into the contract, or are we at some sort of held liable for something?
during the contract period that you
Yep,
would
so
like
we
to
sign, we sign a
terminate early?
contract, whether it's Republic, Gyms, I don't care who, and something, I don't know, whether it's the customer service complaints or, you know, I don't wanna use the word breach of contract because you can't put customer service complaints into a contract.
Mhm.
But if it ends up being where we don't feel that the service that we thought we were gonna get is what we're getting, what happens if we say, we're done, we're moving on?
So there's different contract provisions. We'd first look at if there was a default of the contract. If there is a default, the standard contract that we did provide to all the potential haulers does call for a cure period of 30 days. But that is dependent on the events of the situation. The provisions don't necessarily allow for the city to unilaterally cancel the contract.
So in English, we're locked in for 5 years.
Yes.
Okay. What happens if we don't? What happens if we say we're not going to go with you anymore? We have to pay them a minimum fee?
There's potential for damages then too.
Okay.
So that means that the hauler could come to the city saying, you breached your contract, now you owe me a certain amount of money.
I mean, there is no business in USA that gets that kind of deal.
Right.
I mean, period. You either perform or you don't have a business. So what if we wanted a lower contract? What if we wanted only a 2-year contract?
That would be part of the negotiation. That's not necessarily what we presented in the RFP, so we would potentially have to look at resubmitting for additional proposals, because that could affect the price that we did receive as well too.
Okay. Just had curious questions.
Mhm.
Well, I guess, is there any other, how do we feel about this contract? I mean, we either have to make a decision on it tonight, or we don't, I guess, is what it comes down to.
Well, a decision has to be made tonight.
We
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to.
Well,
if-
let's,
Mr. Mayor.
someone make a motion, or someone plead their case, I don't know what needs to be done
Mr.
here to
Mayor?
move this along.
Before we get to the motion, the RFP did state different qualifications that the council would judge the haulers on. So I just wanted to go through that with you to make sure that we're meeting all the criteria that we set out in the RFP. I'm sure the council looked at it. I did have an opportunity to look through these potential or proposals as well too. When it comes to gyms and waste management, I was able to speak to some of their references. Both of them had very good references. Both the communities they work with had very good things to say about it. One of the other criteria that we wanted to discuss with them was the customer service. Gyms did state that they had 4 customer service representatives. Waste management had a 24/7 online service, and that's similar to Republic as well. They had an online service option. They did propose different schedules for the council to consider. When we look at Republic, they wanted Mondays for residential and commercial. They would be collected with the same schedule as the residential. Gyms suggested Thursdays, with commercial being Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And waste management, they would prefer a Tuesday collection, and then commercial, they would pick up to 3 times a week. They didn't specify the dates as with that though. We talked about the price, which of course is the consideration, but it is important that the council consider the other factors as well that we stated in the RFP. Additionally, I would say that we did get some amendments back from Republic and Waste Management to the contract we presented. They didn't deal with the term. There was some nuances with the insurance that they would like to provide. The one thing that the city is looking to require though is that the haulers manage the waste in accordance with Benton County Solid Waste Ordinance number 162 and the Tri-County Solid Waste Management Plan.
Thank you.
What do you think, Deb?
Excuse me?
What do you think?
Well, I went back and forth, and basically Republic is the evil I know. Gyms, I've heard good and bad from customers. I like the prices at gyms. And it's local and it's a small business, and I live by that, and that makes it tough. cause I do prefer those kind of dealings.
Jeff, anything to add?
I like Jim's prices. I'm just concerned of the quality that we're gonna get. I sure hope if we move through this, that the people will have a good quality product. I'm concerned about it. I've read the reviews out there, I've talked to people. We don't need to argue about it. We don't need to have a discussion about it. There are some reviews. I sure hope that you prove those reviews wrong.
Yep, I will.
Can I get it?
So, I want to be noted that, again, I'm a proponent of what's not broken, don't fix. I appreciate, Jesse and Jim's, salesmanship. I mean, you've showed up the last few meetings, you've made calls, you're heavily engaged, you've been taking care of Malacca for 30-ish years. I'm a proponent of small business. I would like to see it work. The hurdle is what we have isn't broken, and that's the hard part. And to make a decision like this and it doesn't work out is, backlash on us. However, I do believe that given the opportunity and the chance that we could see a good relationship, ideally for longer than 5 years, as I think it's unnecessary to do this every 5 years.
I motion, I motion to go with Jim's Mille Lacs Disposal as our garbage hauler. Anyone?
Making that a motion?
I made a motion.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all for say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Motion carried. EDA report, downtown facade program, grant program applications.
Okay, I can take this one, Mr. Mayor and Council. And Member Gondik or Mathowitz, chime in if I missed something. We met prior to the council meeting tonight, and you got copies of the packet in the council packet. The EDA did move to recommend both of those applications for funding at 50% of their project cost, with the downtown facade program that we just recently established. So, did I miss anything?
Nope.
We're bringing forward a recommendation to fund both those projects. And we still have funds left, so we're hoping to get more applications in the future. So, both good proposals, both met the requirements, in our opinion. So, we're just asking the council to officially address that. Because you need to approve it.
Motions?
Yep.
I mean, I'd make a motion to approve the EDA's recommendation on the downtown facade grant program applications that we've received.
I second.
Comment would be it's great to see some of the designs and what they're doing.
That should be in your pamphlet. Did you get that?
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah.
But
I like the designs.
Yeah.
they're very.
I think it's,
It's what we need.
yep, definitely.
We have a motion and a second on the table, Mr.
Good
Mayor.
news, good news.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? If not, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. 13, discussion of cannabis moratorium ordinance. Ashley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As you know, the Minnesota legislature had recently adopted legislation that legalized recreational cannabis. With that, they've also adopted the Office of Cannabis Management that's tasked with the rulemaking function for the state that sets out essentially the guidelines for how cities and different businesses should operate their cannabis businesses. That is still in the development stage. The city hasn't received the final rules for what that would look like. And how that affects the city specifically is that the Office of Cannabis Management was supposed to come out with a model ordinance that cities could consider when adopting zoning ordinances. Cities are not allowed to completely ban cannabis, but they can adopt reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions, which are the zoning ordinances. The reason why we're bringing this up today for the council is that in this last legislative session, the legislature did approve some pre-approval for applications for social equity applicants. So if a person would qualify under that criteria, they could apply to the Office of Cannabis Management, they would get pre-approval, and they could start cultivating cannabis if allowed by the city. Foley currently doesn't have a zoning ordinance that limits where cannabis can be cultivated, sold, and of the like that. So that is why the moratorium is being brought before you for discussion. It cannot be passed today because it does need a public hearing. That is different than other moratoriums that the city may consider. However, based on the cannabis statute, we are required to have a public hearing. So we wanted to have this discussion with you tonight to see if that is something that the council would like to move forward is with a public hearing and further consideration of the moratorium. And then we also wanted to talk to you about some licensing schemes as well. Myself, Ms. Brunn, and Chief McMillan have been in conversation with Benton County. We've received correspondence that Benton County has volunteered to administer the licensing for the cities within Benton County, Foley being included. We don't know necessarily the details of how that would look on if the applications would be submitted directly to the county, if there's costs involved in that, so there may be still some questions involved. But that's certainly something, an option that the city can pursue, so that's another discussion point that we wanted to bring up. We're all happy to entertain questions. Right now we are looking for direction on if you want to move forward with the moratorium and your thoughts on licensing. Should we have further discussions with the county, or should the city pursue licensing on its own? If the city does pursue licensing on its own, that does raise questions of staff time and allocations that way.
If we do a moratorium, don't we have to actively pursue a end goal on this then?
So it would be a study on the zoning ordinances. So staff would look at different zoning ordinances that are available.
Do we have to allow or issue a license? Do we have to do that?
So Foley will have to allow cannabis businesses if they receive a proper license through the Office of Cannabis Management. The scheduled date that those licenses will start to be administered is January of 2025. But the early application for the social equity is going to start in July, and if they are approved in July, they can start cultivating in Foley at that time.
So if we have to do this, can we specify medicinal purposes only and not recreational?
So as the moratorium is drafted currently, it does leave exceptions for medical marijuana. And that's certainly something that the council can discuss if they want different exceptions as well.
If I may though, correct me if I'm wrong, for the long term, we couldn't do that. We still have to eventually come up with some type of, it will have to be allowed. We can't keep it out.
Right.
That's correct.
State law won't allow.
What cities can do is adopt reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions, so zoning ordinances. Just for the moratorium, if the city chooses to pursue that, they can prohibit the sale, manufacturing, and cultivation of cannabis. However, that only lasts till January of 2025. At that time, if an applicant receives a valid license through the Office of Cannabis Management, the city will have to allow it, provided it complies with any zoning ordinance that the city adopts.
If I could, typically it is of concern when we do a moratorium because there is some time and, that's needed to research and monitor the ordinances. However, there is a risk with the escalation of the licenses that the cannabis office is looking at doing. We could have somebody come in as early as next month and we have to accept them. And that is a concern. We're just not prepared for all this, and we don't have the guidance and the information yet from the state. That is why we're bringing this forward, because they basically kind of, brought up the timeline a lot quicker with now this social inequities, provision that they just passed in the last session.
So can we set a fee schedule for them for licensing? Like, no different than a liquor license or a tobacco license?
This will be different, that we will receive guidance from the Office of Cannabis Management on certain fees, but we cannot necessarily set our own tax or our own separate fees,
Why not?
because the statute disallows that.
So we have to wait for them to tell us what is gonna be the number?
Correct. And that's part of the reason why the moratorium may be helpful, so the city has time to study that.
I don't think the moratorium's gonna be helpful, because they're gonna change their mind 10 times before they get to there.
Exactly.
That's what's been going on since they did everything last year, in my opinion.
The reason we're bringing this up, like I said, is because there are certain applications that are going to start to be accepted, and if they are accepted, they could start cultivating cannabis in Foley. So we want to make the council aware of that.
So the moratorium helps push us out to a minimum of January 1, 2025.
Correct, and it helps the city develop either zoning ordinance if they need it, and just receive some more information from the Office of Cannabis Management on how this is going to hopefully be better administered.
What happens if the city wanted to run its own cannabis shop?
Another reason why a moratorium would allow us more opportunity to gather information.
Sure. But either way, with this moratorium, we would still have to move forward with it, right?
With the moratorium,
After the moratorium expires.
cannabis would be allowed on January 1st, 2025, if the moratorium is passed.
So we're buying 6 months.
Correct.
So how difficult is this gonna be to police when it gets out of hand?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I highly suggest you do, support the moratorium, because it does, yes, it only gives us 6 months. Yeah, you can look at it that way, but it's also helping us get a better grip on the guidelines, which we know nothing about, because the state hasn't got them out yet. They're kind of putting the cart before the horse, in my opinion. But, you know.
That's been since the
It
last
is,
year and a
yes.
half.
Yeah, but for this part, I mean, and then you also look at it as, my concern is where, if we don't have this in place, somebody can just start cultivating and growing it wherever they wish. And my concern is the kids.
Yep. I make a
And
motion
so.
to pass the cannabis moratorium.
And Councilmember, I wanna just hesitate you to do that. At this point, we would need to set a public hearing first. So we just wanted to get the approval that the council's okay with setting the public
A
hearing.
public hearing after this?
Nope, before
Before this.
the moratorium is passed.
This is just to see how we feel about it.
So we have to motion for a public hearing?
We need to set a public hearing, and we'd probably be looking at July 9th. That's our regular scheduled July meeting. So we will post.
But if
'cause
someone
we have
gets
to
approved for a
post it.
license on July 1st, then our
Oh.
moratorium doesn't mean anything.
I don't think it's July 1st, it's mid to late July.
It's late July that
Yeah.
they would be approved.
Okay. So we should.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, if that's what you're asking, yes, I'm in favor of a public hearing in July.
And I would second that.
Yeah. Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Nay.
Nay. Motion carried. 14, or is there any other discussion on this? Sorry, there was another.
Hold on, so what are the nays for? We don't wanna have a public hearing on passing a moratorium?
I can't vote for the ordinance if I don't want to see the licensing. I'm not gonna vote yeah for the ordinance. 'Cause I'm not,
No,
I'm not in favor of the licensing.
The
I'm
public
against
hearing,
this.
the public
Oh.
hearing is for the moratorium. To put a moratorium on until January.
I don't even wanna discuss it, just the whole thing.
So now we gotta have discussion on the licensing registration.
We would like direction on how the city would like us to pursue, if they would like us to have further conversations with the county on licensing, or if you as council persons had questions that we should raise to the county about the licensing schemes that they are proposing.
With the county doing it, are they working with Rice and some of the other small towns to come up with this,
They did extend the
ordinance?
offer to every city, and I believe townships in Benton County. As far as I know, only one city has accepted their offer. They didn't disclose what city it was, though.
All right, so to be clear, we're gonna have a public hearing on whether or not we have a moratorium in July, and now we're discussing having the county help or assist with licensing registration.
Yeah,
Correct.
the reason being, eventually it's going to come.
Yep,
So eventually we're going to have some type of licensing in place.
and this is if we would like Benton County to handle it for us versus us handling it.
Correct, if we would like to explore that option, and we don't need to make a final decision, we just don't wanna go down that road if that's not something that the council is interested in. We think it's worthwhile to staff to look into it, because we don't know what this whole thing is going to all entail. And it might be better to work together on that process.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on this then? I guess we're just,
Do we need to make a
there's no motion to be made here.
No,
Okay,
we will continue to discuss with the county and
Okay.
report back to the council.
Thank you.
Xcel franchise agreement, discuss and approve. Ashley.
So unfortunately, we cannot approve the agreement tonight. I was hoping to have the final version from Xcel. I spoke with them on Friday. I have not received that final version back yet, but the sample, the draft you have in the packet, I'm not expecting substantial changes for that. So what we wanted to do tonight also is just to make you aware that we have been having extensive conversations with Xcel since about January. I believe this is very close to the final draft. There just might be some verbiage changes in a few areas, but nothing that should change the meaning of the contract. With these agreements, we have one for gas and electric. We need to approve the franchise agreement ordinance and the fee ordinance. There's two separate ordinances for each gas and electric. So if you have questions, I'm certainly happy to entertain them. I can also go through just some of the high points of this as well. This agreement would be in place for 20 years. We don't necessarily have the option to renegotiate it or to back out of it unless both parties come together and agree to an amendment. Xcel would agree to remove abandoned pipelines and restore the public grounds once they are opened. And then the franchise fee would begin in January of 2025. So even though that this agreement may be approved at a sooner date, we would wait till January 2025. And the reason for that is that we actually have another franchise agreement with Xcel Energy in town. And per statute, we do have to make sure that those franchise fees are either equal to each other or one's greater than the other one. Right now, Xcel Energy is not paying a franchise fee, so we would enter in negotiations with them to pay an equal fee that Xcel is paying as well. Excuse me?
and this is a fee that's passed off to the customer?
That is passed on to the customer. Xcel isn't required to do that, but that is typically how they do that. And the reason that this is advantageous for the city is the city can use this for certain improvements as well too. This helps with broadening income resources for the city. They don't have to rely so much on certain tax bases to do that as well too. So that's the reason the city wants to pursue this typically. When it comes to Xcel, what this agreement says is that they can essentially work in the right of way without obtaining an extra permit. We have provisions in this agreement that handle how they will be working in the right of way though.
I'll add to one of the reasons we discussed this a number of months ago. There are certain entities that don't pay property taxes, whereas we can collect fees off of those entities through this vehicle or through the utility bill, so that they contribute to certain other improvements and needs of the city.
I mean, common practice amongst most cities that Xcel services?
Yes, so many cities do have these franchise agreements. Sauk Rapids has one, and that was discussed with Xcel in these negotiations, so it does closely mirror Sauk Rapids' agreement, and then other communities in Minnesota as well too.
Are we looking for a motion? I guess I'm
I'm
confused a little bit here, but.
We don't need a motion because we didn't get the
Right.
final okay, but if there are any questions or concerns with what you had in the packet, let us know, because then maybe we can run them through quickly at the next meeting.
And then you're gonna bring East Central's agreement before us next time?
It may not be next time, but it will be in the coming months.
So it's a 25?
20.
20-year.
20-year agreement. And the fees increase year over year, or is it just the one flat rate across the board for 20 years?
So it does start as this flat rate. We can always approach Xcel, but any amendments would have to be agreed to.
Okay.
Any other discussion on this? Well, department reports, Ashley Bukowski, you're up still.
Well, I've reported on most of what I've been working on for the city of Foley. As I said, we will bring in July the moratorium back for the council to consider, and then hopefully by July you'll also have these Xcel agreements to consider as well too.
Anyone have any questions for Ashley? Thank you. Police Department, Katie McMillan.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll start off first with the May stat report. We had 412 calls in the month of May. As you can see, the trend is going up from the previous months. Some things to point out, our DWIs, we had 3. For the whole year so far, we have a total of 7. That was our total end of last year. So our DWI enforcement is up. Gas drive-offs, child incidences at the school, suspicious activity, domestics and assaults, and harassment calls are all up. These all take a lot of officers' time, a lot of report writing to do. You can see assist agencies is up. That's due to, we've been assisting the county out a lot lately too, for they have been short-staffed, so they help us out, we help them out. Everything is documented. For the miscellaneous, it's up. That is due to a lot of records checks, found properties, and assisting people come in and they have general questions about harassment restraining orders, OFPs, we deal with a lot. And a lot of record requests for the tobacco and liquor license. I run all those and I go through all those and I let the front office know that they are approved. And also you'll see yesterday was Monday, 26 letters for tall grass went out today. I drove around yesterday. It is June 3rd, that means no mow May. This does take a lot of staff time and my time and the front office time for sending out these letters. And the weather was nice on Saturday and Sunday, so I wanted to make sure the letters get out so then people get out there and mow, and if we have to, I forward it to Mark to have the city guys do it all before Foley Fun Days so the town looks nice. So that's why I know some people will ask, well, why don't you give it a few days? I gave it 3, and I want it with the strict timeline that I have to make sure it looks nice for Foley Fun Days. There are also a few that I'm watching yet, so there may be a few more going out of those. Coming up, reminder, we had the bike rodeo on June 15th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for ages 10 years and under. This is because a lot of the ages, all our prizes and stuff are geared for 10 years and under. We have 77 pre-registered. So that is a lot compared, and we usually get 25 or more walk-ups too. So I'm expecting we will be well into the hundreds again. And a special thank you to everyone who has donated. Mark with Public Works for helping us store and pick up bikes for us. It's very much appreciated. We've been doing a lot of Foley Fun Day prep and getting the schedule all set for that. I do have an officer who his wife is expecting their baby. I was just told any day this week. And so that affects our scheduling a little bit. So you may see like me working a night shift, but it's okay. So there will be things like that coming up. Squad car update. The 2019 is still burning a lot of oil. I've actually just messaged my officer to pick some more up tonight. So we're putting about a quart to a week about we're doing. And the 21 squad went in and got new brakes because I couldn't stand the squeaking anymore. So you will not hear us coming from blocks away. And they said, with this, it's expensive, more expensive brake pad. If this does not fix it, they'll have to change the rotors, and that's even more expensive. So we're fingers crossed that this works. Otherwise, the 21 squad is doing fine. The root beer float social is July 11th from 1 until 2:30 here at City Hall. I believe that is all I have, unless you have something for me.
I do have a question.
Yes.
A while back, I was able to enter the school through a door that was locked.
Yes,
The
you did.
SRO officer and the school, did they come together to rectify this from ever happening? Do they know what happened?
They still believe that there was a pebble or something that another student put in that door when you pulled it open. Officer
So
Cody
done deliberately by someone?
to
All right,
keep the door open, yeah.
okay, thank you.
On these DWIRS,
Yes.
those happen under the TZD hours?
Some of them did, 2 of those did. When my officer was working TZD, it happened out in the county, and then the county called the officer over to handle the DWI portion of it because they're working the TZD shift.
Okay.
And that's what that purpose of TZD is kind of for.
When you talk child at school, are we talking behavior, or are we talking a general, it involved a kid and we had to have law enforcement?
A lot of those are behavioral.
Okay, so
Yep.
it's not like we're seeing abuse?
No, that is underneath, either miscellaneous for if they're human services reports,
Okay.
or underneath assaults.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? Thank you. City engineer, got anything else for us, Jared?
Good evening,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of council. Just a quick update on the South Side project concept. We did wrap up our wetland delineation. Those results have been submitted to the county for essentially their approval of delineation. Nothing really changed as from what we discussed in the past as far as on that larger property, kind of on the north side, wrapping around the north side and then around the west side coming down. That one's, it's still pretty, as to be expected there. And then on the property adjacent to golf court there, a little bit on that northwest corner. But those should, since we have submitted those, I believe it was last week, they have the county has 60 days to review that and give us their determination. So that is all I got on that one.
Any questions for Jared? Public Works, Fire, Mark Pappenfuss.
In your packet, you got county CASA agreement. It's the same as last time, except they had an increase per lane mile of $30. So it didn't go up much, but we need agreement to, the rest of it's all the same as you had last month.
We need to motion that.
It's a 3-year agreement.
I still didn't see any cost increase, cost of living increase for those other 2 years. They're not, they didn't do that with the other cities, I take it?
No, this is what Sartell and Sauk Rapids got.
Okay,
I mean, I haven't seen it, that's what I was told. It's the
okay.
same.
That's what they got. I know, I'm trying to figure out how to say it.
2024 to 2022 to 26 CASA agreement with Benton County.
I motion to approve the 2024-2026 CASA agreement with Benton County.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? So, it's just the streets, correct? Signage?
It's spelled out in there, I don't remember, I think signs are part of it.
'Kay.
Now, I believe they switched that last time.
Okay. Any other further discussion? If not, all four say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
In your packet, you got a quote to overlay the walking trail. This is from along Norman Avenue South. It's from Oak Drive going back north, whatever feet it is, to about across in the middle of the fire hall, on shy of the Heritage Point 104 entrance. Part of the reason it's a little higher, some of that area, 2 different spots are pretty bad. They're gonna have to skim it we're gonna smooth it out and then put our layer down above that. So that one needs to be, and then the Lions Park, the first one, there's some big holes right on the east side of the parking lot there, right where the parking lot and it meets the walk trail and it meets the entrance, main walkway to the park. There's no patching that there. So we're gonna do up a way to get out of the alligator. So I have a price there to do that, and I have a price there to do the whole lot in case we have a windfall of money.
So what do we do? Because I thought we had a machine, or we were doing some filling or some stuff
Patching.
ourselves.
Patching, this is a paper roll, put it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we just buy one for that price?
No.
No, okay.
County doesn't even have one. Yeah.
So what are we looking at? Are we looking at just the 10-8, or are we looking at?
Well, we should do the 10-8 and the 4-5. We gotta do something. That's where everybody's walking.
Right.
In that park there, you know.
And the
there's a-
16 is for on the fire
if we-
hall?
No, 16 is if we do the whole parking lot in Lions Park, cause it needs it, but it's not broke up.
Do we have any money budgeted for park improvements?
I say it, that's not, but that's why it's separated out this year. So I just wanted to, show the need of what's there.
Do we have to get more than one quote? If we go over 25,000?
Yeah, we'd have to separate it. If we were to do the whole lot, which not to be mean, I assume you're not gonna do, I mean, I wanna do the whole lot, but you're not really gonna do the whole lot, are you?
I don't know what, how much money do you have to spend, I guess is the bigger question.
Well, we'll have to take it out and improve. I mean, what else we wanna,
I mean, there's more that, I'd like to see more out of the parks than the parking lot.
No, we gotta do
This
that
isn't even the
parking
parking lot, this is just the trails.
no, the trail's a 10-8.
Yep.
And the other two are the Lions Park parking lot. The 4,500 is the east 6th maybe, where it's all broke up there.
Okay.
The 16,000 is the rest of it, going back towards the tennis court.
Oh, okay.
So, is it possible that we could get a better deal if we waited till next year? with the
Nothing
twin-
goes down, but we could.
Don't they have a place they need to dump some? You know?
I mean, would I like to do the whole thing, if we do those first two this year, we gotta figure out where we're at with other things, and we put this money aside for parks.
Right.
Do we need a motion on this, or is this just a consensus?
No, I think we need to be clear about, we should be clear about the motion because we wanna make sure we're meeting bidding requirements. So, under the 25,000, we can make that decision if you wanna do items 1 and 2. So I just wanna have the minutes reflective of that.
So item 2 is a part of the parking lot, item 3 finishes it.
Yes.
Okay. And item 2 is the one that's bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get behind item 3 today, but versus some other things that could be done.
That's just going over the top, right, Mark?
Yes. We'll clean that one area out where it's all broke up.
What does the council wanna do, or do nothing?
We looking to do 1, 2, or all 3, or what?
If we do all 3, we have to put it out for bid.
No.
Because,
No, we just have to get another quote.
or another quote.
Yep.
Which one do you prefer to be done?
We gotta do 1 and 2.
We have to do 1 and 2, by the sounds of
We
things.
really need to do 1, I mean, do you have to do anything?
And
No.
3 would be
You
the warm
don't
and fuzzy.
have to do anything with one, that's just it.
Well, 1, you, like I say that, or we need to block the trail off, we're getting complaints on it. You know, and that trail's used so much.
I'll add to the trail, we have funds budgeted for that specific purpose, and then we allocate, the contributions from the scout, we use that every year to do a section of trail. That's a deliberate plan we've been working on for a number of years, so that's part of that.
The trails that create a safety hazard right now?
What you guys were told a couple meetings ago it is.
Okay.
In front of the nursing home, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that included?
Yep. Yep.
A motion to do items 1 and 2 on the Hanson paving bid.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all four say aye.
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 Against? Motion carried.
I'm good.
With the accident on the roundabout.
That was my question.
The
The ped
insurance guy or insurance take care of that for us?
and our crosswalk signal.
Yeah, we're working on that, cause there's significant costs associated with the damages on that, so. Yeah, we're getting, we got some numbers already from Mark's working on, some reports from Katie, yeah, we're in the process.
So just the one? Everything else was good?
Yep.
Okay.
It still worked when it was laying on the ground.
Well, yeah, it's solar. All right, anyone else got questions for Mark? Fire's good?
Yeah.
Okay. Administration, Sarah Brunn.
I'm just gonna mention two things. We have a planning commission meeting on Monday. We're working on getting packet out. We're just running a little behind schedule with a lot of other things, but just, that's on the radar. And then I handed you, we just got the audit preliminary draft yesterday. We've gotten through some of it, not all of it, but I gave you the copy of the full report, cause I know that takes some time to go through. That is for our meeting on Friday at noon. I will follow up with the agenda and the presentation information once I get it. We have an audit meeting scheduled with the, fieldwork, people on Thursday morning, so it'll probably come out shortly after that. So, you got the bulk of it here, so you have some time to go through that, but, we do plan on having that meeting at noon on Friday. And if you have questions for me,
So
otherwise
that's been changed from 10:30 to 12 now.
it was 12 initially. We just had conflicts every which way we went, so we're just keeping it at 12, and we're gonna.
Who changed this?
Staying the same, 12.
Yeah.
I like the second one, but we'll be here.
Yep, it was, yes, it just didn't work out, but we will get it done as quickly as possible. Anything else for me? Otherwise, spent enough time today.
Old business? The only old business I've got is we need to update that snow fence ordinance.
You gonna bring that to the, planning commission, or we'll handle it as a council?
I would just handle it as a council. All we need to do is take the one word out and change the dates.
But we need to consult with the attorney too on that. I can take a look at it and report back to the council.
There we go. Good news. Any other old business? New business? Hearing none.
Pool opens
Oh,
tomorrow. Pool opens tomorrow. Gonna be a
Who's
big
jumping in?
deal.
Is somebody jumping in for Sarah?
Yep, I chose to jump in for Sarah.
Just you?
And then Jeff's jumping in on his behalf.
And what time are you jumping in?
5:45.
Okay.
Yeah. It'll be all the rage.
Oh, I'm sure.
You'll be there?
Why not?
Okay.
I do have a couple things, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
In payment of bills, the 2 countertops that went into the Lions Park came in at $243. So with that, there's also 2 more pieces of material that I'm sitting on, and I hope to find the time soon to redo the countertops in the kitchen part of Lions Park. With that, shout out to our admin office staff for completing nearly 25 hours of software training so far with the new finance implementation. They still have nearly 50 hours to go. Adding this into a busy season has been challenging, but we appreciate the hard work and dedication. Thank you. The pool will be set up and running tomorrow, and Public Works has done a great job of getting things ready. We appreciate the commitment of the staff in providing this beautiful amenity to our community. Our police department just finished up a successful school year. They safely assisted 6 entire grades in crossing the highway corridor in order for them to utilize the city parks and celebrate the end of the school year. The fire department has been busy getting raffle tickets together and their calendar. With that, kudos to our staff.
Second that.
Any other new business? Anyone like to speak on open forum? Please come forward.
I would.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions. Deb's my neighbor, so she knows one of the issues I have. If we can see if we can get, where my driveway comes out, it's on the south side of my house, it's right next to the dentist's office. I have a tree row there. There's only, where the angle parking starts on that street, there's only enough for one vehicle to park there. The problem we're having is I even have 4-inch lift kit in my pickup. But when I come inching out of my driveway, if there's SUVs angle park, I have no way seeing anything even from Highway 23. So I started inching out, and I've lived there 8 years. Luckily, there has been no incidents. I mean, I've either had to gun it, or the vehicle has slam on the brakes, or go in the other lane. I would like the city, just for that one parking spot, no parking zone. No parking zone in there until you get to the angle parking. Because it is, they have parked so close to our driveway. I take the trash cans out Sunday night. They will park so close to my trash cans that they're actually against them, and then my trash doesn't get picked up. So I think to make it is a safety issue. I mean, I've almost been hit, I've almost hit other people because I can't see. Just that one spot should be a no parking zone.
Jared, in design on that, it would be if we would lose a parking spot there and bring the, just.
You're referring to like the parallel parking between the diagonal parking in your driveway.
Yeah.
So there shouldn't be any loss of parking for the dentist, it'd just be more or less of a.
No, I mean, it's usually the dentist employee that parks there.
Yep.
Oh, just paint the curb once it's.
Yeah, just paint that section of curb, no parking. You know, it'll help me get out of the driveway.
Okay. I was thinking your angled parking was getting in the way, but I see what you're
No.
saying.
It'd be just like here if you know, on
Yep.
downtown.
Yep.
And then the other issue I have is, I didn't realize until Katie started talking about Foley Fun Days about everybody's grass, because I got one of them letters. Well, I had one of the cops come and talk to me, and I'm sure you know who my name is after I talked to her. Who owns the land around Dollar General? Does the city own that land?
Around the where?
Dollar General?
I don't know.
Dollar General owns that. Yeah.
You're the one, you're talking this one or the family, Old Family Dollar?
No, Dollar General.
Dollar General owns
No,
that.
here.
Okay.
I mean, Dollar General owns excess property around them.
I assume they own that all.
And
the
they
time.
mow it.
Yeah, I think.
But what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you're gonna come over and send a cop over to me when I have 6 inches of grass and complain that my grass needs to be cut, and we still have a week to go for Foley Fun Days, but yet, if you look around Dollar General right now, them weeds are like this. Dollar General only owns so much of that land. Who owns the rest? Does the county own it, or does the city own it?
Dollar General owns quite a bit, and MnDOT owns the front side, and county owns behind them.
So I mean, when you guys complain to your residents that their grass is not cut to your code for Foley Fun Days, I'm gonna switch that around and say, you guys need to get something done with the grass and the weeds throughout. I mean, you wanna hold us accountable? We'll hold you guys accountable.
That
It's
sounds fair.
simple. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak? If not, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all four say aye.
Aye.
Against? Meeting adjourned.
Cannabis. My niece has medical gummies.
I'm all for medicine. Recreation, no. Medical,
I took everything. She's got a store trying to do this in St. Paul. The state does not have a person. They all quit.
They all quit.
They have no
That's what I
card.
said, they don't,
She's out,
January
she
1st
can
they're
go
gonna
to
make
a craft sale and she can sell the medical ones. And she